Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and with me, as always, is my host and my brother, Bashar Sayed. Bashar,
Hello.
hello, hi, congratulations. We're in the colors of Islamabad United, the winners of the PSL 9. I, I just don't even know where to start, bro. Like, what are your feelings, thoughts, emotions right off the bat? How are you doing?
When this collab was announced, I was firstly incredibly happy that it happened because last year, I've mentioned this before, but being a Karachi, I denounced my support from Karachi and
Yeah.
I associated myself with Islamabad since last year. It's on the podcast, it's on record. And for Islamabad to win this year and for us to be part of the Islamabad United squad, the family, when the collaboration was announced initially, or when we talked to Islamabad for the collaboration, nowhere in my wildest dreams did I think that it would end with Islamabad winning the PSL for the third time, the most successful team in PSL history. And I'm just over the moon. I'm overjoyed. I'm so happy for all the players, all the management, the support staff. I think this means so much to me sitting outside here, but sort of being part of the Islamabad United family, seeing all my friends, all my colleagues, the guys who are working so closely with us, succeed, be happy, rejoice. Just amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those feelings where you feel like as a group, as a friends group, you do a group project and then you get like A stars on it and you just feel over the moon about it. That's how I feel about this win. We were closely following all of the games as always, and we'll go through the journey of Islamabad, how they managed to pull this through the third time. First team ever to win it three times in the PSL. Um, and just like it was one of those moments where when I saw Hunan hit that four through backward point, by the way. That shot was through backward point. I was just like elated. I saw the tears in Hunan's eyes. He just broke down after the match. And I felt the same way after the game. I just felt like these tournaments are so long. And, we saw it firsthand how rigorous the security is, how rigorous the staff is. And you're sort of tuned in, locked in for 5 weeks. And, some people don't even get to see their families. It's just like you're holed up in this situation for 5 weeks, and then you come out the other side with a chip. That's insane. And kudos to Rihan Bhai, kudos to Qasim, Zukhruf, the whole staff. Haris Bhai, everybody at Islamabad United gets their flowers, and it's determination, hard work, and just sheer dominance that got them through, especially the last three games that they played, the eliminators that were for them. We'll get into them, but again, kudos to everybody. Congratulations to the Islamabad United family. And thanks to everybody who's been actually reaching out to us. People have been DMing us, messaging us, saying things like Islamabad United won because of the collaboration of Backward Point. I don't think there's any merit to that. But I would like to say the last time that Islamabad won, they did a collaboration with Irfan Junejo. And this year, after 6 years, they did a collaboration with us and they won again. So there's two chips with two great collaborators out there. So Islamabad. If you want a fourth one, you know where to call.
I think there's some truth in the collaboration because them not winning, them not even going to the finals for 6 years. And then this year we collaborate, they go to the finals and they win it. I think it was an incredible season because they didn't get off to the greatest start. They were, I think, 4 wins, 4 losses, and they were on the edge of whether they're qualifying, whether they're not qualifying. They sort of gained momentum midway to the tournament, and their game in Bindi got rained out. So when they were looking that they were peaking, it got rained out, and they lost the next game. And then for them to come back the way they did to win Eliminator 1, Eliminator 2, and then the final, just an incredible journey. I think in this podcast, we're going to start off talking about the Islamabad versus Peshawar match because that to me was an incredible game of cricket. We were luckily streaming that live. I think 75% into the match, we thought
This is
Zolmi's going to win.
Yeah, it's game over.
We're streaming a game and the team we're supporting is losing again. I can't believe it's happening.
I think Islamabad actually broke our curse of doing that because we've done it a few times on this channel. You guys can check it out all on the live YouTube feed. We've streamed a few different matches, and I think every time we supported a team, they've lost. So this was the first time that we actually won on camera since the famous 152 for 0. So shout out to Islamabad for that. But before we do get into the Peshawar Zalmi match, the eliminator to it, I think it was, I want to just give a shout out to the Multan game where they chased 232. I think that was where the tides turned for the better for Islamabad. I think that was the game that defined them. We were talking about the upward curve of them peaking. I think that was the moment where they had peaked and then they stayed plateaued after that, because that was the highest point that they were going to get. After that, I think the belief in the team changed. I think the attitude in the team changed. I think after that win, they knew that they were going to win this whole thing, and it was just a matter of moments and who will shine for them in certain situations. And there are moments where Haider Ali stood up, Azam Khan stood up, Shadab stood up, Naseem Shah stood up, and we're gonna get through all of them. So let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah, so I want to talk about Haider Ali in detail. This episode is chaptered, so if you want to hear about just the finals, you can skip through. But I would encourage stay on because I'm going to go in detail of Haider Ali, what happened to him, where he is now, and where he can go in the future. So the first point of question is what happened to Haider Ali in the first place, right? He was a under 19 prodigy. He was outlined as the next Babar Azam, the next big thing. Ian Bishop wrote an article after the under 19 World Cup, and he highlighted 5 players who will be the future stars, and Haider Ali was the only player from Pakistan. And Ian Bishop said that Haider Ali's cover drive reminds me of Babar Azam. So for him to have that under 19 World Cup and then have an incredible first PSL season for Zalmi, and then go to the Pakistan team, score a 50 on debut, the only player in Pakistan's international T20 history to score a 50 on T20 debut, and then just to sort of lose himself somewhere within the international circuit. For me, it's a point of concern because I was firstly a huge fan of Haider. Secondly, he's very young, so I have this source of relatability with Haider Ali. I want him to succeed. So to see him go through what he went through the past 15 months has been tough for me to see. But when I spoke to him in Islamabad, when I saw his last few innings, I've just been rejoiced. I've never been more happier for a player, and I don't know what it is about Haider, but every time he succeeds, I feel like I succeed. So just going back to what happened to him, under 19 days and the initial days for Pakistan, he was a opener slash one down batsman, so a top order player. Somewhere along his career, someone, some legend, some genius in the Pakistan team decided, Haider Ali, you average 25 and you strike at 127 at number 3 for Pakistan. But let me actually move you into the lower middle order at number 5 and number 6. And then that's where sort of his decline started. He averages 15 at number 5, strike rate of 157, averages 6.25 at number 6, strike rate of 93. And he's just sort of lost his place since then. Now, the question is, why in the Pakistan team are middle order players opening and top order players who are supposed to open playing in the lower middle order? Example, Rizwan and Babar are middle order players in test matches, ODIs, but they were opening for Pakistan. Babar Azam, who was a pure opener for Pakistan, was playing at number 5, 6, or number 4 the last series. Haider Ali was a top order player. They've sort of switched him into a lower middle order player. So I don't know why they've sort of derailed Haider from being the player he was supposed to be. And it infuriates me when fans talk about how Haider Ali ruined himself, or he shot himself in the leg. When you're a player who has played top order your whole life and you're suddenly asked to play number 5 and 6 and you're not adapt to that, when you don't have the rigor of domestic cricket behind you, you are bound to struggle. And we saw this year that Haider went from being a platinum pick last year for Karachi Kings, platinum pick, the most expensive you can be in the PSL, to being unsold in the initial draft of the PSL. Now, credits to Islamabad for picking him in the supplementary draft, in the supplementary category. And just to come back to what's changed this year, right? We spoke to Haider, we spoke to Rehan, and they gave him a clear role definition, what he's going to be expected to do for Islamabad this season. And that was that he's going to bat at number 5 and number 6 and play a finisher's role. Now, that's exactly what Haider was preparing for leading up to the PSL. That's what we saw him doing at the practices. And anybody who's asked me this season, once we came back, like, who's a player to watch out for? I've only been telling them one guy. It's Haider Ali. I saw him hit massive sixes in the training camp. He scored a century in a 14-over practice match, and he's been looking on song. He's looking confident. He was positive in the podcast and even off the podcast. So Haider Ali is a prime example of how you can build up a player as fans, as team management, and also bring him down to rock bottom and then sort of force him to be there. Now it's up to Haider, credits to him, credits to Islamabad for the way that he came back. Because we've seen lots of players sort of just get lost within the system, be it Ahmed Shahzad, be it Umar Akmal, and the list goes on. So I'm very, very happy for Haider to find himself and play that knock, that important knock in the eliminator. 52 off 29 balls, 2 4s, 5 6s. Now, the reason why this is such an important knock is because the list of players who have scored a 50 batting at number 7 or lower in the PSL in a successful run chase is Haider Ali, end of list. So that's how special that knock from Haider was. And again, just couldn't be more happy for him. And I just hope that he continues to play the same way and continues to improve his game as a 5-6 finisher.
You also have to give a lot more credit to Haider Ali than that. And also, we spoke to Hanif Malik, who was the coach and the performance coach for Islamabad United, and who was strictly working with Haider Ali. You guys can go check that podcast out as well. That was a podcast where he specifically talked about the curious case of Haider Ali and what he's going to do and how to make sure that he performs to the potential that Haider has. And he said one thing. He said that I'm going to make him make sure that he just focuses on the ball that's being bowled in front. I'm not going to make him think about his past. I'm not going to make him think about his future and what he's going to do after this. I'm going to make him think about that one delivery that's coming at him right now. And if you look at his innings, they're calculated. They're sometimes just explosive as they need to be. And they're full of potential. And he's delivering on those numbers because that's the sort of player he's molding into. And honestly, this is like one of those Hollywood stories where the guy's at the top, life brings him down. Nobody picks him up, and then he finds his way back in, and he wins it all. Like you can take this is a playbook from every single sports story ever. You can go to Southpaw, Rocky, Creed, anything.
What's that Saif Ali Khan movie?
Tararam Bum Bum, bro. This is Tararam Bum. Haider Ali is Saif Ali Khan from Tararam Bum Bum. His car flipped 45 times. He survived, and now he's back winning the HBL PSL. So honestly, like kudos to him. When we spoke to him, he was, like we said, like delighted to be picked, elated to be at the Islamabad camp. And I think Islamabad was the perfect home for him, as it was for us, because the family, that culture that is there built by Rehan Bhai and co. Honestly, you hear people talk about it all the time. And we were also one of those people that, we heard about that. And we were like, okay, what is this family culture they keep talking about? Like it at some point started to become a little bit cringe. I'm like, okay, yeah, family, I get it, but it's a business. Everybody's getting paid. But once we actually went through there and saw that support system and saw how every single person had a role and every single person was there happy and just there was positive vibes all around, I understood that meaning of family culture, as it were, in the Islamabad camp. And I think that's really what made Haider Ali nourish. And he peaked at the right time, as did Imad Wasim, as did everybody else, Azam Khan. Everybody was peaking at just the right time. It was like a perfect storm for Islamabad. And, Haider Ali is a prime example of what you can do to a player if you just instill pure confidence in them, because all of these players have the potential to play international cricket. They've played international cricket. It's just what you do with them mentally that, elevates their game.
It's also about giving Haider a positive environment where he can express himself freely, where he can be Haider Ali and sort of play fearlessly. Because playing at number 5 and 6, there's often lots of failures involved. And Islamabad is the kind of franchise that is okay with players failing. They continue to back their players. And that's one of the reasons why Haider has succeeded. Now, should Haider be considered for the Pakistan team right now? I would say no. I think it's just too early for him right now. One good inning shouldn't mean that you rush back into the Pakistan team. I also feel like Haider needs to improve on his scoring range. I think all of his 6s were towards the onside and mid-wicket square leg region. I think Haider needs to improve his scoring range and just also score on the offside, straight, mid-wicket, mid-on, point, scoop shot, because that's the need of this position.
I think you saw that in the Peshawar game where he was trying to hoik everything towards mid-wicket. And in a couple of times, it actually looked a bit ugly. I was like, I don't know where this is going to go, if this is going to pay off. But then after he settled some nerves and he found his mojo, then everything was going to the fence.
Because that's one of the criticism that Haider gets, is that he just plays that
one-dimensional, right?
Heave.
The one thing that actually really pisses me off, if we're talking about how the redemption of Haider Ali has been insane and immense, and I agree with that. But the one thing that still pisses me off is we're talking about that mid wicket hoik, and in that Melbourne game where he just came in and he just for some reason the second or third ball in that Pakistan versus India game just skied it to mid wicket, and I was like, Haider Ali, what is that? Like that stuff like that is I think where fans come in like he just shot himself in the foot because they're okay, you have to do that, but like, lead it up. Like just don't come out and start doing that. And I think since that 2022 fateful evening, he's a different man now. He's changed a lot. He's gotten more mature. He stayed in the game a little bit more. He's been in the system. He's seen ups. He's seen downs.
He's played county.
He's been county. Like so, he's getting life experiences as well as cricket experience. And I think now is the time where if he just keeps his trajectory up, we'll see him in the greens very, very soon.
Now, I want to talk about something that might get some slack from the fans is once the game finished, once Islamabad chased a score from Zalmi, because we've been collaborated posts with Islamabad and had it ready for some of the clips, we started getting notifications that pop up. And a lot of them were from Babar Azam's toxic fan base. Now, it wasn't just Haider Ali, it was Amir Jamal, it was Imad Wasim. You go to their posts on Instagram and you read their comments, and they're violent.
It was Twitter as well. Twitter was also.
They're abusive, they're shameful, they're hostile. And I don't know if that's what Babar Azam's fan base wants to be. Because for me, reading those comments, I couldn't imagine if Haider had just gone through those comments, what's going through his head. And that's essentially social media bullying, cyberbullying. And it was ugly. And I don't want to see that again.
I think I'm a very good person to analyze exactly what's happening because I've been a fan of Babar Azam and I'm still a fan. Like that, like his toxic fan base will not change how I feel about Babar Azam, the personality, the person, the player. But it's very, very similar to Taylor Swift fan base. And I'm a fan of Taylor Swift as well, but I'm not a quote unquote Swiftie. And neither am I a quote unquote Babar Azam stan. And there's because of two reasons. That fan base, both Babar Azam and Taylor Swift fan bases are the core ones, live in such a weird echo chamber and live in such a weird bubble where this demigod of a person is the only thing that exists and they can do no wrong. And any criticism towards them is a criticism towards this holy figure that they've sort of created in their heads, that when things don't go their way, they become very, very toxic on the internet. I mean, I saw this with Taylor Swift fans when the Red Taylor's version came out and this Jake Gyllenhaal was completely canceled on the internet. And guess what? He just has a new movie out. He's doing great. Nothing's happened to him. It's just that echo chamber that seems to just erupt violently whenever something goes against their person's way. Same thing with Babar Azam stands. Now, I love a good Babar Azam edit. I live for that shit. My TikTok is filled with that. And I would love nothing more to see more Babar Azam edits. That's what I live for. But when this side of the fan base comes out, I think it's just toxic. It's ugly, like you said. There's no need for it. And players feel that way more than the fans do. I'll explain what that means. Because we've been firsthand experiencing all of this stuff with the players, with the biggest players in Pakistan, we sort of talk to them off camera and we see their body language change. We see that they see everything. You know, every single hate that comes at them. It's such a social media age. And these people are just normal kids, man. They're our age. They're hanging out on the socials. And they see everything. And it's not just the way that Babar Azam fans treat everybody else who's not Babar Azam. It's like other people who treat Azam Khan a certain way because of what he looks like. Or, you know, if somebody has a bad game like Amir Jamal did, they just go at him. Like that's not what this cricket fan base is. And I think if you want to go a bit more psychological, it just goes back to where Pakistanis don't have heroes in their culture, right? There's two things that thrives in Pakistan. It's politics and cricket. So even in politics, if you look at it, we hail certain people as demigods. They can do no wrong. And then same thing in cricket now. We do the same thing with cricketers. So there has to be a balance. These are very, very normal people. They make mistakes. Babar Azam scored the most runs in the PSL. You have to commend him for that. But he wasn't able to translate that into a match-winning knock for Peshawar when they needed him. You got to accept that as well. And same thing with Haider Ali. Like Haider Ali scored brilliantly in that eliminator. He came back. Praise him for that. Like just because he scored a 50 that knocked out Babar Azam doesn't mean he's the fault. Or that Amir Jamal was one of the best players that came out of that Australia series. Just because he had a bad PSL doesn't mean he's a bad bowler. He's just one of the great all-rounders that Pakistan has in the team. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked for the T20 squad in the World Cup. Just coming back, toxic fan bases are everywhere. We're just ashamed that Babar Azam toxic fan base is so much. And we're going to get a lot of hate for this. I can already feel the keyboard warriors going off on Twitter, on the comment section of this video. We don't give a shit. We're just out here saying what we see. And until those fan bases sort of find something else to do for a while or just calm down from their toxicity, this is going to happen over and over again.
And this had nothing to do with Babar Azam himself. Like, Babar is not telling people, "Oh, go tweet
Yeah, yeah.
against
Neither does Taylor.
Jamal," or
Neither does Taylor, by the way. Taylor Swift is not out there saying, shit on Jake Gyllenhaal. That's just what the parasocial relationships between the fan base and the person has become. Babar Azam isn't going out there and telling them to like yell obscenities at Imad Wasim. That's just what happens. But we forget that these are real people who have to interact in real world scenarios. If Imad Wasim takes his retirement back and comes back to the national T20 squad, Babar and Imad have to play together. What dynamic is left there when the fan base has become so corrosive that whatever relationship they have between them is now so damaged that it becomes hard for them to even work together for the same cause to win this T20 World Cup? Like, is that not the goal? Or is the goal just to make sure that Babar has another 50 or another century? Like, that's not the goal. And even Babar would say that. Like, my century in vain is just a century in vain. I would rather score a good 50 that makes a team win, right? And that's the same thing with Imad. All these players have that same mindset. Like, we see nobody plays for individual numbers, but the fan base needs to understand that and need to calm down, bro.
Well said. Let's go to the PSL final and talk about how when the game started, it looked like all things were going against Islamabad. Obad Nakoy gets injured minutes before the first ball is even bowled. Tymel Mills, who was probably relaxed in his PJs, training kit, had to warm up and come back and play the match. Rizwan gets out in the first over, but Naseem, who never balls a no ball, balls a no ball. And then
it was so close that
it was very close. And then the thing that like a 1 over later, Colin Monroe gets hit in the knee and he goes off the field. So
I didn't see that. What happened there with Colin Monroe?
I think somebody hit a drive straight to Colin Monroe and he started to like stop it with his hands, but it burst through his hands and hit his knee.
Okay.
And I think it hit like a funny part of his knee.
So I just want to give full disclaimers. I was on a long haul drive with my family, my wife and my kid to Niagara Falls while the final was happening. And it's like a 2-hour drive from where we live. And the game was on the entire time. And I'm glad my son was asleep in the back and he didn't was being chaotic at all. And so me and my wife were watching this cricket game as I was driving towards Niagara Falls. So I started like when the 4th or 5th over started. That's why I was a little bit behind in what happened during the power play.
But in hindsight, Rizwan playing the knock he did sort of worked in favor of Islamabad because he scored like a 26 ball, 26.
You want to talk about Rizwan a little bit before
Sure.
we get? How do you think his tournament went?
I think it was very average.
Even though he's the 3rd top scorer of the tournament.
I don't think anybody has put Mohammad Rizwan in their all-time PSL 11 of this season. It's been Usman Khan as wicketkeeper because Usman just been more impactful. I think you need impactful innings to win tournaments. So it doesn't matter whether you're top run scorer or the top 3 run scorers. If you're not putting match-winning performances that are really helping your team or helping utilize all the resources within your team, there's no point in being the top scorer or the 3rd highest scorer. So I just think Rizwan also played at a very like an average strike rate.
122 over the season.
Yeah. So not his best season, I would say. He also had to give up his gloves for Usman Khan, which I thought was very captain-like of him to do that, just to make sure that Usman is doing his best. But yeah, I just think in a final match, 26 off 26 balls, that's just not clutch. And I think over the years, we've seen Rizwan he's not a clutch player in finals or semifinals even. So
knockouts, you mean?
Knockouts. Yeah. So like he's not putting up a 30 ball 50 or a 25 ball 45. He's more of like a 110, 115 strike rate. Let me get mine 37 off 29 balls and let's see what happens from there.
Conversely, I think Babar Azam has taken that criticism really well and has actually improved his game. He was the highest run scorer of the PSL at an average of 60 odd something like high in the 60s, and then strike rate of 145. And that's including one game where he had to score 110 just because the conditions in Karachi were just turning a mile. And, PZ won that game. So I think, Babar Azam looked very nice this tournament. We have to give him his flowers as well. Another tournament where he goes top scorer. And if you look at him every single year since he's debuted in the PSL, his strike rate has just gotten higher and higher and higher. So which means that he is improving his shot section. We saw a lot of scoops this time around, which is amazing to see. I think we saw a lot of beautiful cover drives as always, as par for Babar Azam. And I think his new form taken into the World Cup could be really good for Pakistan.
Now, I have a hot take. I think Babar Azam's inside out scoop over cover is a better shot than his cover drive, because I just think the elegance involved in that cover shot scoop is like none
So
other.
you saw that edit on Twitter that was floating around.
I did.
And I have to say, I agree. That shot, he's just so natural at it, and it's such a good scoring shot. It's not a risky shot at all because there's always a gap between, I would say, what is that, cover and point? Cover and extra cover? There's always a gap there, and he makes sure he hits that gap. Sometimes it's for 6, so he just clears the boundary. Sometimes he hits it so perfectly that it goes for 4. And I think that's his trademark shot now. It's become that, and it's a sign of intent. It's a sign of aggression. I love it.
Also, if you've played any cricket as a batsman, you will understand how difficult that shot is to play. Like cover drive, then you can still nail it if you have like a good bat position. But to play that shot with the spin over the fielder, inside out, in the gap.
Sometimes against the spin.
Yeah.
And like sometimes with the fast bowler. And if it's coming 140 at you right on your legs, and he like makes room and scoops it over for 4, like I gotta give my props to that. Like that's what I mean. Babar Azam this tournament was brilliant. Like his century that he scored, who was it against? I forget.
It was Islamabad.
I mean, I shouldn't have forgotten that then. But one of those like best centuries I've seen in this PSL, and it was the acceleration that I liked. That was at the back end of the innings where he was sort of not, I wouldn't say struggling in the beginning, but he was definitely taking his time, making sure the demons in the pitch or whatever were gone. And then after he accelerated, I just had to give him props. That was amazing.
My hot take is that Zalmi won that match due to Arif Yaqub's heroics, because I think
That's not a hot take.
Azam pulled that game back.
Oh, yeah.
75 off 30 balls, and then they needed 20 off 2 overs, and then this guy comes in, Arif Yaqub,
Takes 4
wicket over.
That's some gully cricket shit.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like who does that in international or like a league like that? But shout out to him. He was one of the more entertaining aspects of the PSL this year for sure.
So Rizwan gets out, and then Usman Khan puts up a partnership with Khushdil. Usman Khan, I thought, great homework by the Islamabad team, because they were peppering him with the short stuff, and it seemed like he was uncomfortable for the most part. He even got hit in the arm. I don't think he kept that match because he was out, and Rizwan was keeping ahead of him. So good homework. Islamabad, I know for a fact they work with CricViz, who is a cricket stats website. So they probably provided all the insights to Rehan, Shadab, and I know Shadab takes these stats very seriously. So they worked out a plan to go against Usman, because Usman has had an incredible season this year. I think he was awarded the best batter of the tournament just because of the impact. 5 or 6 matches, I think he scored like 300-400 runs.
Controversial as well.
Very controversial. Babar Azam fans did not like the fact that he won the best batter, and Babar just won the Hanif Muhammad cap, right?
Yeah. Because he was the most top run getter. But I think it was controversial as it may be. I think it was totally just. I think if your team plays the final and you have a 50 in the final, you get that award. Impactful player, 100%.
The one thing I didn't understand was, why did Rizwan send Iftikhar so low? I think sending Iftikhar at 8 in the PSL final, where he's had a great season, the most 6s, I think, this season by anybody. And just to give him like 20 balls to play with I think it's disrespectful to Ifti Chachu himself.
I think it was very, I just don't understand the notion of people saying, oh, X and Y player cannot play spin or fast bowling, so we don't send them when there's a match. I don't understand that logic. The same thing happens with Azam Khan. If there's a fast bowler there, he's like, oh, don't send Azam, send somebody else. Like, what do you mean? This is a professional cricketer. That's what they do for 8 hours a day in their life. That notion that Iftikhar is bad with fast bowling, so like send him when there's spin. Or the other way around, right? So he's bad with spin, send him. What does that even mean to me? Like, if you're a professional cricketer, you should be able to play all sorts of cricket. Okay, yeah, everybody has pros and cons. Like they're aggressive and they like a certain style of game. That's for sure. But to say that, oh, I'm totally handicapped when a spinner is on, is this ridiculous, right? Or is that just me?
I think it's the same thing with bowlers as well. We say, oh, that guy is a good opening bowler. He's a good death bowler. But I think if you look back in history, some of the great bowlers can bowl with the new ball, middle overs, and death overs. I've talked about this in past podcasts. Like, just look at Malinga, for example. Malinga is an incredible new ball bowler. He is one of the greatest death bowlers, and he can reverse it. He can bowl in the middle overs. He's a wicket taker. So that's just what our players need to be.
At the same time, I sort of understand the criticism with the bowling aspect. The age of the ball is very important, right? If you don't know, if you can't handle swing, if you don't know how to control your swing, then yeah, okay, wait till the ball is a bit over and then do your thing. I sort of get that argument just a little bit more than the batsman argument. If you're a top class batsman, if you play in the top 7, you're a batsman. That means you should be able to handle every sort of situation that is presented to you, not to be cushioned by Musama Mir going in front of you because there's a fast bowler on or spinner on.
Yeah.
Like that's just dumb in my opinion. So whatever that call was, I think even if Zakha had faced 6 or 8 balls more than he did in that match, would have probably changed the entire game in terms of what Multan were able to score in the first innings and how they were able to finish.
Yeah, so Multan gets 160, and in response, Monroe, who can barely walk, hits 4 boundaries in his 17.
Very Graham Smith of him.
100%.
Yeah.
And then Salman Ali Agha gets out cheaply as well. And then Shadab gets out for 4 off 8.
That bowl against Shadab, who is it that bowled?
Iftikhar.
What a ripper. What a ripper.
I just think it was a dumb shot from Shadab because
Yeah,
he was
definitely not the smartest shot to play, but what a ripper. Like that just full on the stumps, fast. Shadab wanted to cut that. No time at all, buddy. Your off stumps ripped off.
So Islamabad is 55 for 3 at the 8 over mark. Azam Khan walks in and he looks under pressure. But the good thing is that Martin Guptill hits boundaries. He takes the pressure off Azam, which eventually helps Azam to play the innings that he was able to play. 30 off 22 balls, 4 fours, and 1 brilliant 6 over long off. That's just the sort of impactful innings that you expect from Azam at this time. And then once Azam gets out, Guptill gets run out, and then Azam gets out. Imad and Naseem put up that match-winning partnership. Now, this guy has ice in his veins. A cigarette in his mouth, ice in his veins.
He's smoking Multan.
I mean, he took 5 wickets, and then he goes in the dressing room. He lits up a cigarette. And I don't know why the broadcasters thought it would be a good idea to just show Imad in the dressing room. Do you think there's any sort of conspiracy involved with that?
No, I just think it was just a normal shot. I don't think the broadcaster knew that my boy was lighting one up. I don't think that was on the cards for anybody. And then they immediately cut off, which seemed even more suspicious.
You know what was the worst part? So Imad is like watching the TV, but there's a delay. There's like a 10-second delay on the TV versus the actual real-time broadcast. So Imad is watching the TV and the match is on, and then he takes a smoke. And then he comes on, and then he's on TV, but he's already smoked a puff. So the smoke is inside of him, and he tries to hold it for like a second, but he can't. So eventually he has to let it go, and he's like, man, I'm screwed.
No, it was tough. It was fun to watch though. Like, I mean, you'd be surprised to see him being flustered by that. I think that was just part of the game. We've heard a lot of cricketers smoke. So.
I'm reading Shane Warren's book, and he talks about smoking every now and then. I think Ben Stokes took a smoke right before the super over against New Zealand in the World Cup final back in 2019. So I think smoking is it's pretty common amongst the cricketers, but I just don't think it should have been broadcast. I don't think Imad should have been in that area smoking if you were smoking. But I don't promote it. I think as an athlete, you shouldn't be smoking. You should be.
I just don't think he was able. Like, I don't think he in his wildest dreams was like, oh, they're gonna feature this on the big screen. That was crazy to me. But just a good moment. I think if everybody can take a joke, then that was just a lighthearted moment. And fun stuff. It's the PSL. Relax.
Pakistan Super League. I saw a tweet. So I want to talk about Naseem Shah here. Naseem Shah, the batsman. On the podcast, we talked to Naseem about his batting, and I think he's performed better. Like, he has more match-winning moments with the bat than he does with the ball, which is concerning, but also interesting because he's a lower order batsman. And at the training camp, we saw him firsthand take his batting so seriously. The first day at the training camp, he didn't even bowl that day.
Exactly. That's what I was saying to you. That's what we mentioned to Naseem on the start of the podcast as well. I was like, the first day you came in, you didn't even bowl, bro. Like he padded up, went straight to bat. He batted like 3 or 4 times because the way that they were running the practice was that if you get out, you have to wait until the next person gets out to go back in. So he was just chilling there, trying the scoop shot, reverse scoop shot, hitting Shadab over covers, going straight on the ground. Like there were so many moments during the practice where I was like, is he an all-rounder now? Like, what's going on? And that's the same thing that Wasim Bhai said at the A Sports, the pavilion thing after the game, where he was like, if this guy takes his batting a bit more seriously, works on the short ball, he could be a standout number 7, number 8 for Pakistan. Just because at that point, what do you got to do? You just got to come out and you got to hit sixes. And he does that really well. He times the ball really well. His eyes are very set. He's never scared of the ball. If it's in his zone, it's going to go out. And we saw that. I think his 17 off 9 were the craziest 17 runs that I've seen in a final in a very long time.
That 6 against Iftikhar,
I think about that 6 sometimes.
I screamed when that happened. I was not expecting Naseem to go down the track and hit him for a massive 6 over square leg. Like that wasn't on my cards. And then for like fast forward into the last over where I think it was the first ball of the over where Imad hits it towards long on. It was a clear double. Clear double any day. Naseem says no. And then the confidence that Naseem had.
And Imad was really pissed, by the way.
He was very
if you remember,
pissed.
if you see his reaction, he was genuinely pissed. He was like, Bhago now. Like, what are you doing? And it reminded me of, again, gully cricket where like there's a tail you're playing, you've been carrying your team for the whole game, and then this tail is not running. And you're like, bro, what is wrong with you? But the confidence that you were talking about that Naseem had, that he knew he was going to finish that off, he comes out, hits a beautiful flick for 4. That was the game there.
I think unlucky for Naseem not to finish the match off. He got nicked off. But for Hunain, his brother, to come in, who didn't have really much of a contribution in the match. He didn't bowl against the game against Zalmis. And then did he bowl?
He bowled an over.
He bowled one over, but went for lots of runs. 17. So for him to come and play
and drop the catch.
And drop the catch.
Usman Khan's.
Yes, I remember that. And so for him to come in and play that sort of a winning touch, I thought it was heartfelt. I thought it was very emotional. Like he was crying. He broke down in the end. And that's just what it means to these players. And I mean, for seeing those winning moments where he hits a shot, Ubaid runs and he hugs Hunain, and Naseem is running in, but then he turns back. He runs towards Shadab. He gives Shadab the biggest hug and Azam joins in. Just scenes.
Yeah. I think the Shah brothers are, how would I even describe it? Like I'm at a loss of words. Wholesome is the word, but it's been so used. It's so like tarnished now. I hate using that word, but they're just the vibe that those 3 bring together in Islamabad United. That's what cricket is for. Like that's why we started watching the game, just that camaraderie, that brotherhood that we gained watching this game. And then seeing that like splurge out of these 3 individuals as, the tournament progressed, and just seeing them hang out together as brothers just gives them the confidence to keep doing more. I know Hunain went for runs and didn't bowl against Peshawar, but this is not the last time we're seeing Hunain. You might even see him in the greens very soon. Like that's sort of the confidence that he has because he has Naseem to look up to, who's arguably the best bowler in Pakistan right now. So just seeing them thrive just makes my heart happy. I just love what they bring to the table. And, of course, match winning moments aside and making sure that you play to your potential aside, it's the attitude that you bring. And those 3 are just a fun loving group. And you know what? I want to hang out with them. Simple as that.
Again, last time that happened was when the Akmal brothers were playing. Kamran, Adnan, and Umar. But you never heard him talk about hanging out with them.
Next question.
Hypocrisy.
Next question.
So we have to talk about in detail about Imad Wasim, who had a horrible start of the tournament. I think he was a flop for the first 5 or 6 matches.
Yeah, straight up.
There were talks about benching him, bringing in Akasim Akram or somebody else. But Islamabad continued to back them.
He was their platinum player.
No, he was a diamond player.
He was a diamond player. Okay.
So, I mean, for them to continue to back them shows what sort of a franchise Islamabad is. They back their match winners. And then Imad to win 3 back-to-back man of the match awards in the Eliminator 1. He takes 3 wickets for 12 runs in 4 overs where they were defending 174. And all 3 wickets were in the power play, which sort of just broke Queta's back to make any sort of a comeback. Eliminator 2, he takes 4 overs, 23 runs, economy of under 6, where Zalmi scored 185. And then for him to score 59 of 40 balls, and he came to bat when Islamabad were 21 for 3 in the power play. And not just that, but he also really helped Haider Ali play the innings that he was able to play. So again, critical knock. And then the final, just take 5 wickets for 23 runs and 4 overs. And then just to nonchalantly go in the dressing room, have a smoke break. That just says everything you need to know about Imad Wasim.
Will he take his retirement back?
Now, the question is, before that, you need to understand why he took his retirement. Now, it's sort of baffling because if your goal is to bet for Pakistan, Imad Wasim was in the Pakistan team. Imad Wasim was a centrally contracted player. And this is actually where the problem arises. As a centrally contracted player, you can only play 2 leagues a year minus the PSL. Now, ever since Imad announced his retirement, he has played the Abu Dhabi T10. He played the Big Bash. He played the ILT20. That's 3 leagues aside from the PSL already. And then the PSL. And then he just got picked today for the 100. So that's him playing 4 leagues in the
And he's
span
going
of 12 months.
platinum or diamond in all those leagues. So he's
Yes.
getting paid the big bucks.
The big bucks. So, I mean, and then when Hafiz on TV said he called Imad Wasim when he came on as a director, and Imad said that he had moved on from the Pakistan team. So the question is, should we even have Imad back? I know he's a clutch player. He has ice in his veins, but does he have the passion to play for the Pakistan team? Imad's point of view here is that he wants communication from the team. He wants to be a senior player in the Pakistan team. But I think looking forward to the T20 World Cup happening in the Caribbean and the USA, Imad has experience playing the MLC. He has experience playing in the CPL for many, many years. He could be an asset for this Pakistan team. Also considering that Mohammad Nawaz has not shown up for Pakistan as much as Babar Azam and co have backed him. I think this could be the time for Imad to take back his retirement.
Do you think he will, though?
I think he will. I think if you go back and watch we did a whole episode on Imad Wasim, end of an era. And towards the end of the podcast, I said that Imad only announces retirement so he can play all these leagues. And before the World Cup comes, he will take back his retirement. So I think we're on track to have that happen.
But we didn't have Imad Wasim winning Islamabad United a chip in the bingo card, though. Like, if that doesn't happen, then even if Imad Wasim takes his retirement back, who cares? Because that's the same trajectory that Mohammad Amir was trying to follow, and it didn't go through with him because nobody wanted him back. Like, yeah, Mohammad Amir is still one of the best bowlers right now, but we're past the Amir era. Like, if Mohammad Amir takes his retirement back today, does he get selected for the Pakistan team?
Hypothetically, if that happens, where is he bowling?
Exactly.
Because Shaheen and Naseem are attacking the bowling attack. And then if Imad comes back, you have 3 bowlers who can bowl the new ball in the power play.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, like, the situation for Imad is vastly different from the situation for Amir, right? Imad has sort of proven himself through the past, 8 to 10 months or 12 months since his retirement to be like, I am an asset. You need me in the national T20 squad to play that World Cup. And it's just funny to me because the trajectories between Amir and Imad, who are friends, is so vastly different. Like, after Amir went, he didn't really get a call back. I know Hafiz said that I called Amir. Amir said that he's moved on. Same thing with Imad. But right now, there's a genuine sentiment in the masses of Pakistan cricket fans to be like, I think we need Imad. I think we need him. And that wasn't the case with Amir. So it's just funny to see that.
Yeah. I think Imad will come back. And I think if he does, he'll be a asset in the Pakistan team because he can sort of float in the batting order. He can bowl anywhere. His fitness does have some questions. He's a good fielder, though. So looking forward to see how the Pakistan team shapes up once Imad does eventually, hopefully, take back his retirement. Now, I want to talk about Islamabad United a bit, just talking about the team as a whole.
Because we haven't done that a lot at this podcast.
I thought Islamabad won the draft before the draft even happened because they got Imad from Karachi Kings as a trade. They got Naseem Shah from Quetta as a trade. And those were some of their most important players this season. Now, Islamabad as a team, they have no players in the top 5 wicket takers. They have no players in top 5 run scorers, but they have 3 players amongst the top 7 of the most impact players, being Shadab, Naseem, and Imad Wasim. And this is how you win tournaments. You win tournaments as a team. You don't over rely on certain individuals, but you rely on your resources to fire when you need them. And that's exactly what Shadab, Naseem, and Imad did for Islamabad.
I think that's very aptly put. I think, Islamabad United is the amalgamation of team effort. They don't need the top run scorer. They don't need the top wicket taker. As long as everybody is contributing to the win and chipping away, I think that's what makes, like you said, a tournament winning team. And if there's any blueprint that the Pakistan team can take over, it's through this. And one thing that I'm just really happy about is seeing Shadab Khan's comeback. I think off camera, there was a very beautiful moment that we had with Rehan Bhai because we hung out with him a lot during the whole PSL prep. Rehan ul Haq said to us off camera that Islamabad United, if they win this PSL, Shadab Khan is going to be the player of the tournament.
Fast forward now, the PSL has happened. Shadab has scored 305 runs at an average of 30, struck out of 142, 350s, 14 wickets at an economy of 8.5. The first Pakistani player to score 300 runs and take 10 plus wickets. And I think his fielding just needs no comments. He's the best fielder in Pakistan, hands down.
We've talked about this moment before, but we saw this live in the practice session. I was right behind Shadab when this happened. My cousin was doing fielding drills. He lobs one that's a little bit farther than Shadab would like. He runs, he's in the air, he's about parallel to the ground, catches a blinder and dives and walks away like nothing happens. And I was right there. I was like, this guy is the best fielder in Pakistan. Like you keep hearing these things, and obviously we were lucky enough to have an experience where we actually got to witness those things firsthand. But when somebody says, "Oh, Shadab is the best fielder in Pakistan," you're like, how do you merit that? But you cannot merit it until you see it with yourself. And we saw that. Like we saw the fielding practices, we saw the catching practices, we saw his body language on the field, his agility, his mobility. Shadab Khan is the best all-around T20 player that Pakistan has right now, without a doubt.
The most man of the match awards in Pakistan's T20 history. There was a beautiful moment in the Islamabad versus Zalmi match where Naseem Shah balls to Babar Azam. Babar tries to hit it over mid-off where Shadab is fielding. And Pakistan's best bowler, arguably, balls to Pakistan's best batsman, who is caught by Pakistan's best fielder.
He plucked that out of the air. Like that catch single-handedly defined Shadab Khan's tournament, which is that if he is fit and if he is in the focus zone that he's supposed to be, he can do nothing wrong.
Can I say a hot take? Shadab Khan, just as a batsman and fielder, can make the Pakistan team. His bowling, I know, even though he took 14 wickets, his economy is a bit on the higher end. And I've seen Shadab work firsthand on his bowling action. There's some technical issues he's working on. But I think if Shadab plays as a batting all-rounder, plus as a fielder, plus as a senior player, as a match winner, he deserves a spot in the Pakistan team just based off of that.
His cricketing mind is insane. Like he understands the game like nobody else does. His vision is superior, right? So you need somebody like that in your ear as a captain, especially if you're a young captain like Shaheen, who still is the Pakistan team captain. You need somebody like that in your ear who's helping you out, who's giving you the right recommendations on what to do in current situations. And I think Shadab is a no-brainer. I think if he fires at all cylinders, he could well be the player of the tournament for Pakistan in the T20 World Cup that's coming up.
Agreed. Let's move on to Naseem Shah. Naseem, who, again, we saw very closely.
Naseem the dream, bro.
Naseem the dream, bro. Naseem the lady Shah. Naseem the Bradman Shah after that 650, Jaju.
It's insane. Like Naseem Shah is just one of those anomalies that comes in every few years in Pakistan cricket. And this one's just, he's someone who's going to stay. That's what I love about this guy. He knows what he wants from Pakistan cricket team. He knows what he can do to help achieve success. And even though prior to this PSL, he's had pretty, I don't want to use the word average, but not explosive PSLs. This one was just one for the cards.
I think he was being underutilized in Quetta. Like, I don't think he liked the environment there. So I'm so happy he came to Islamabad because this is sort of the environment that he was thriving in.
He chose Islamabad. He wanted to be there. And that shows. When we were hanging out with him, we could see how much fun he was having with the team, with the management, how close he is with Rehan Bhai, how just chill he is with everybody. Like that's the sort of environment that makes a player thrive. Yes, there has to be discipline and there has to be, moments of seriousness and focus. that's all part of that's all part of the job description. But you also need to have a lighthearted environment where everybody is just happy to be there. And Naseem seemed genuinely happy to be in Islamabad, and that shows in his dedication and what he felt his follow through to the PSL.
Naseem was the third player on the list of being the most impactful players after Saim Ayub and Shadab Khan. Takes 15 wickets, economy of 7.5, the second highest wickets amongst pacers, the second best economy amongst pacers. Only the fifth time that a Pakistani bowler has taken 15 plus wickets at an economy of less than 8. So I hope those stats give you context as to how great his season has been. Um, I think there has been only 7 maiden overs in this PSL, and Naseem has bowled 2 of them in the power play, which shows how good he is with the new ball. Hot take again. I think if you want to count bowlers in Pakistan who can bowl 6 deliveries in the same area at a pace of 140 plus, the list is Naseem Shah. End of list. So that's just how good he is. And for me, what's heartening is to see how good his rehab was, that he looked like he was fit. The first few games he was rusty, but he just kept playing and got getting better and better with the new ball and the middle overs and the death overs. So it's just great signs for Pakistan, because if he's in the Pakistan team for the World Cup, which he should be, seeing that Shaheen Naseem ball opening pair, bro, give it to me.
Shaheen was bowling over 140 plus in this tournament as well. We mentioned that in the previous pod as well. So Shaheen at 145, Naseem at 145, right hand, left hand. Naseem and Shaheen, the dream, bro.
So I think overall, a great PSL. We saw some really crunch matches that went to the wire. And I think this is the beauty of the PSL. The past few finals have been going to the last ball. Multan has reached the last 4 finals. They've lost 3 of them. Some are saying that they're the New Zealands of the PSL.
I just told you, like, having Multan in the final, like, how much, it would have been so much more fun if there was a PZ versus Islamabad final. Like, have your best players at it. Shadab Khan versus Babar. Like, that's the final I wanted to watch. That's why I think the PZ versus Islamabad Eliminator was the better game, in my opinion. That was the better, even though this one went to the last ball and yeah, it was a final. The Peshawar Zalmi versus Islamabad United game was the better game. It's just the flair that those teams have. Multan just seems so boring, man. They just keep coming up. They keep losing. It's just one of those teams where, like, they might have a really good player, but like, there's no flair. There's no fireworks. Tareen Saab, his team is so wholesome, and like, just like, everybody's just a family. Like, it sort of seems like they want to emulate what Islamabad have without having the flair that Islamabad has. And it just, I don't know. Like, one day they will win a PSL again. I'm very sure of this. The way that Tareen Saab handles his team and his management, they're all extremely, like, high class people and very knowledgeable about cricket. But I don't know. There's something always missing with Multan. I just can't put my finger on.
What's missing with the Karachi people is the Karachi crowd at the PSL.
Oh my God.
Now, I think
What a segue.
Usman Samiuddin tweeted that it is the most Karachi thing that the eliminator on Saturday was almost empty. And then the final on a Monday night was a full pack stadium.
Thank you, Karachi. Thank you.
Now, we should talk about how hard it is for the Karachites for firstly the PSL happening in Karachi. Because can you explain, as somebody who is very familiar with the Karachi city, where the stadium is located in Karachi?
So Karachi, National Bank Stadium, Karachi, is located literally in the heart of the city. So it's maybe 30 minutes from everywhere if you're in Karachi. But that also comes with its cons, which is some beautifully talented engineer or architect, whoever built the stadium back in the 70s, forgot to add a parking lot. So there is no parking near the stadium.
And because of security routes, they block the roads around the stadium, which just causes insane traffic jams. You know, I went to watch I think there was the second test match between Pakistan and New Zealand last year. And I got an Uber there. I got an Uber back. Cost me around 1,800 rupees, $9, which for me is not a lot of money, but for people in Pakistan could be a lot of money.
Imagine like a 16-year-old fanatic of cricket that needs to first figure out how he's going to get there. And like, not everybody has 2,000 rupees, if you're especially in that age, to just burn up on travel. And then you're going to go there, and then like, it's not a friendly experience for the people of Karachi to come out and, you know, genuinely want, even if they want to support, they can't. One thing that we saw, the disparity between the city of Karachi, which is the biggest city in Pakistan, which has the most people in a city in Pakistan, which is the sort of the lifeline of that country, versus Islamabad and Lahore, man, just insane. Like I don't want to get like too geographical, political, whatever, but Karachi, it's not new. There's no news, but Karachi has been neglected for decades now, and it rubs off on the city. Obviously, it rubs off on the city. Nobody's priority is to watch cricket when there's a billion other things to worry about. In comparison, Islamabad and Lahore are just far ahead of the city of Karachi. Like it was just so much fun to just hang out in Islamabad, just go around. It's a cooler weather. It's near the mountains. People are nicer.
Secure.
It's secure. People were nicer. Like everybody was just chill there. And I think you could speak on Lahore if you want a little bit how they were as well.
I think I saw some Twitter threads about people's experiences watching the final match in Karachi, and if I compare that to my experience watching the PSL opener in Lahore, I had a ball. I think the only problem I had was like I had to walk a couple of kilometers from the gate, go through about seven security checkposts to my seat in the I think I was sitting in the Imad Khan enclosure VIP, and then there was food there. There was all the amenities, people coming and giving us food for money. But overall, the experience of getting in, getting out was quite seamless, I would say.
But one thing that really needs to improve, and then I don't want to do the whole Pakistan versus India comparison, but I have to here, is that you look at the grounds in India, you look at the viewing experiences there, like Chinnaswamy Stadium, it's a delight. Yeah, whatever. It's a smaller stadium. I maybe have issues with the size of the pitch and the ground, whatnot. But the viewing experience is the same as Lords.
Bro, have you seen the Dharamshala Stadium? It's in between mountains. Do you think we can build a stadium like
It's not even that. I'm talking about like just inside the stadium. You are less than 20 feet away from the players, from the action.
Yeah.
In Karachi Stadium, you cannot sit in the lower stands because there is about a 12 to 15 feet, like just what's it called?
It's a grill.
There's a grill,
like
cage, like a
wires.
This is a barbed wire fence is basically what it is, and it's up 20 to 30 feet. So you immediately lose the bottom rows because there's no viewing experience through there because it's impossible to see through the thing. And then when you come back up and you're watching the game from the higher bowl, you're immediately like 200 feet away from the game because the ground ends and then there's like, I want to say about 30 meters of just grass. There's nothing going on there. And then the stands start. And then again, like reminding everybody, the barbed fence is 20 feet high. So you immediately lose the first 15 rows. And then you're so far removed from the game that it's not fun. I think that's the same experience with Gaddafi as well. Maybe it's a bit better. But until that situation resolves itself, until these grounds were made in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, man. Like you have to realize this was not for modern audiences. Like there are still seats in the National Stadium that are cemented. You have to sit on a rock.
Bro, they put wedding seats in Rawalpindi.
Yeah.
Because they don't have proper seats.
I think Rawalpindi is still a better viewing experience.
I think it's the best view at Rawalpindi. Then my friend says Faisalabad is also very good.
Yeah. So those two might be the better viewing experiences. And they look like that through the ground because
the
they're a bit
sixes
more.
Go in the crowds.
They go in the crowd. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see the sixes go hitting empty green lots. You don't want that. Right? And so all of this, like the PCB has to have a really hard look on why the Karachi crowd isn't showing up and when does this transfer to other cities? Because right now it's Karachi, could very, very, very well be Lahore in the next 5 to 10 years if this keeps going on. Could be Pindi, could be Multan. Like you want to make sure that the crowd is catered so they keep coming. We went to see basketball games here for the Toronto Raptors and it's seamless in, seamless out. There are professionals, like there are, franchises, food stalls outside that we know of that we can go eat. In Karachi Stadium, I had a bun kebab, bro. That gave me the shits, by the way.
Let's talk about another scale up, right? Talk about how we watched Coldplay at the Rogers Center. I watched Ed Sheeran back in June. 55,000 people coming in and going out in the span of 3 hours, and it's seamless. There's trains that go there. There's buses. There's subways. There's walking tracks. There's food inside, outside. It's an experience to watch a game. And I'm talking about 55,000 people. Now, the National Stadium was like, what, 25,000 people? 35,000 people.
It's the biggest stadium in Pakistan.
It's still, it's like the experience of going in and out. Like I would probably just watch the match at home. And then the Karachi crowd gets a lot of slack. Now, this whole thing pains me more because we've watched a match at Lords. We're sitting in the mountain stand for the Pakistan versus South Africa World Cup match in 2019. And we were so close to the game. If I had thrown my cap, it would have hit Shaheen Afridi, who was fielding at fine leg. That's how close we were.
Yeah.
So from that to the watching experience in Pakistan,
Even the game we saw in Birmingham, that same World Cup where Babar scored his famous century, we were up in the stands, but it was still a better viewing experience because the higher bowls were still like close enough where you could hear. I heard the nick where I think it was Shaheen who bowled. He nicked. I don't forget.
Tom Latham.
Yeah, he nicked Tom Latham. I heard it. I was
Yeah.
in the stands. I was like 100 feet away. It's just the way that those grounds are orchestrated. I think PCB needs a hard look at what they're doing and logistically what they can do with the city of Karachi to make sure that the viewing experience is better. Invest money in your grounds, guys. I don't know when was the last time these grounds got a re-up or a touch-up. It's been years. It's been decades. PCB has the money. They have to splurge it. If you keep pumping money into these things, people will want to come. You'll get butts and seats. And punishing Karachi for not showing up for the PSL and taking games away and giving it to Pindi and Lahore, that's not the way.
And next year we have the hosting rights for the Champions Trophy. So I can't imagine like the Australian team or the Indian team, the England team coming in, and we just don't have international level facilities. Like I can talk about this when we're in Islamabad. There was a Patrons Cup final happening at the Pindi Stadium where Islamabad was scheduled to practice, but because the game was happening, the ground was unavailable. And like the next ground that should have been available was the Islamabad club ground, also unavailable. So we had to drive from the hotel 25 minutes to Rawalpindi at the Chaklala Cricket Club, and the facilities there were under par. Now, this is not to blame Islamabad, but that's just a reality. We don't have top quality facilities in Pakistan. And I felt embarrassed because someone like Mike Hesson, who has coached New Zealand, who has coached RCB, Virat Kohli, Ibe de Villiers, Chris Gayle, was coming here and there's like wet patches where Naseem Shah, your premier bowler, is supposed to be bowling.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a situation of where the PCB needs to work on. Definitely something to ponder upon. Pump money in, make it better. Like, that's all we want from as fans. And, until that happens, Karachi will not show up. Karachi is a stubborn city. Like, you should know that by now. If they don't like something, they will not show up for it. The final was an amazing final. I'm glad the Karachi city showed up. But if the situations don't get better, I don't think this will resolve itself.
I think this is a good way to wrap up this whole final review, eliminator review podcast. Great PSL. There's more PSL content coming up. I'm trying to do a post PSL Q&A. I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions with the Pakistan team for the upcoming series against New Zealand, series against England, and then the World Cup. Also, I want to apologize. We weren't able to do the Q&A that I asked before the PSL because we got stuck in Islamabad. So really hoping we can take some of those questions, some new questions, and bring you a post PSL roundup Q&A.
And again, thank you guys for supporting the channel. Like, I cannot believe that we were able to witness this. This has been the wildest 5 weeks of our lives, sitting with champions. It was just insane. And it would never have happened unless the support that you guys gave did not vain. And I appreciate every single one of you guys. I appreciate every single Patreon member. I appreciate everyone who's ever tried to pledge money and try to help us grow the channel. And just like, if you've told your friend about us, thank you very much. I appreciate that so much. We appreciate the love that comes in our comment section and our DMs every single day. Stuff like this makes me want to keep talking, keep potting, and keep being on YouTube and Spotify. And so just wanted to be gracious and convey my gratitude to the fans.
Emoji of the day.
Emoji of the day.
Has to be the
lion.
The lion.
Has to be the lion.
Shiru.
If you've made it to the end, it has to be the lion. That's the emoji of the day. Islamabad United win the PSL 9. They are the most successful franchise in PSL history. And it all has to do with a collaboration with Backward Point. Call us back next year and we'll get you the 4th chip as
Also,
well.
the Pakistan team, anybody from the PCB listening, guys, we're open. The next World Cup is here in New York, Florida. We are like 5 hours.
3 hours away.
3 hours away.
Oh, I'll drive. I don't mind.
Babar Azam podcast. It's loading.
Let's do it. If you guys want it, you know where to find us. That was it for us. Backward Point is out. It's late. We got to do some sehri. And then we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers.